This is Wednesday, July 24th. There are 365 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2020. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go.
Oh my god, I love LiveJournal, and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive, current music, Refuse 73. I love the color scheme, it's pink and purple.
Good evening. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast tonight, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us.
And also joining us tonight is Kim Twombly, outside Comic-Con herself. She's muting.
She is muted.
Also joining us tonight, Erin Tapkin.
Hi, that's me. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
All right. So we're going to take comments and questions throughout the show. So tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We'll also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. I guess we can just get this started. This is a wrap-up show where we will be putting a nice little package around Comic-Con 2019, wrapping it up, putting a bow on it, putting it away, and talking about it again many times. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Let's go with how is everyone doing? Well, first of all, actually, let's do what someone requested and get a puppy health update from Carrie, because her puppy did something a little naughty today.
Okay, so I work from home, so I never leave my house anymore. But I left today for not even an hour. Come back, my dog has gotten into 2 zippered pouches in my backpack, and it is partly my fault because I'm an idiot. I had forgotten that I had a convention center bar of chocolate, and not just chocolate, but dark chocolate in there. So my dog had gotten that, eaten the entire bar of chocolate. Luckily, I think she had just done it. So I basically just because she was fine when I got home, grabbed her, threw her in the car, took her to the vet. They did the stuff. She's fine now. She's home. She's happy-ish. She's fine. So yay. But yeah.
Bad puppy. It's your annual trip to the vet.
Oh my God. Seriously though, this is, I think, truly my longest standing convention tradition is that every single year, either right before Comic-Con or right after, we make a trip to the emergency vet. And I have 2 dogs, and it's always the same one. She's
not lying. It happens every year.
Every single year, without fail. So she knew it was July. So yeah.
There you go. All right. So let's get right into stuff. Why don't we start with how did everyone do at Comic-Con this year? How did you enjoy the show just generally? Let's go ahead and start with Erin.
I think overall it was a really kind of a different experience, especially being with part of the blog team. So I definitely did some things that I don't normally do. And I did Prize Mule, which was an incredible amount of fun. To be honest, though, there's something that happens to me when I'm at Comic-Con, especially when I get on the floor with all those people and I sort of become paralyzed, and all the plans I've made for so many months just go out the window. I never stick to them. I don't know what my problem is, but I just become completely paralyzed when I'm on that floor. So I definitely have some regrets of things that I didn't do that I could have done or should have done or wanted to do. But that's what next year's for, I guess, making up for that stuff. So, I mean, overall, I would give it a B+.
Well, that's good.
On my scale, yeah.
I mean, it's not horrible. You did well.
Yes. Yes.
So let's go ahead and go to Kim. Kim, how did you do at Comic-Con this year?
And well, I was going to say that's really what Comic-Con is all about. Everything's always in flux. You just got to go with the flow is what I say to everyone. And then you're bound to have a great time. And I think I was able to accomplish that. And as we always get further away from the weekend, I forget just how exhausted I was, and I forget if anything negative happens, that usually just disappears. And I always remember the great fun I had, and all the people I was able to see, all you guys that I really just see once a year, really, although, you know, we talk all the time, or we do this, but you know, it's great to see people in person, and that's what the convention is about.
Yep. And what about you, Carrie?
I mean, I may have actually had the best convention experience I've ever had. So it was an A+ for me. Got literally everything I wanted from the floor. Got first or second row center for the panels I wanted. Got to do a really cool thing I can't talk about. Got to do some fun offsites. Got to see you guys. Pacey Khan was awesome. Don't know if you saw the video, but everybody's saying I don't want to wait, which is great. So for me, it was fantastic. I mean, I know not everyone feels the same, and I think it also just depends on like what your expectations are. Like, I tried very hard this year to like not overextend or overbook myself, which I'm usually like, oh my God, I want to do like 500 things. So this year I tried to like be very realistic, and also having preview night helped so much in just like knocking big stuff off our list. So that was great. But yeah, for me, it was great. What about you, James?
I agree. Being able, I think it's really incredible how 3.5 hours can make such a difference to the con. But being able to go to preview night really helped make the rest of the show easier to deal with, when I didn't have to like run out of a panel on a bathroom pass and try and be back in an hour to get one thing done, and then run out of a different panel another day and try and get something else done. So it made the con a lot less stressful getting stuff on preview night. And just in general, I had a blast. Just like last year, I was able to do a really good mix of offsites and panels. So I had a great time. It was very tiring, which is to be expected, I guess. But on the plus side, I actually slept in my hotel bed I was paying so much money for every night this year.
I mean, I camped out. I mean, I got up at like 3 or 4. I got up at 3 one morning and 2 another morning, which that's not that bad. But honestly, I had so much time. I got to take, over the course of the week, 2 1-hour naps randomly. I was like, this has never happened at Comic-Con.
Right?
So yeah, it was great. I'm gonna like not overbook myself ever again.
There was actually multiple times throughout the convention where I managed to go back to the hotel for a bit and either drop things off or rest for a few minutes and then head back out to whatever was next. It was, frankly, it was incredible. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. So you and I had great cons. Everybody else had okay cons, it sounds like.
And I was commuting in, and that was a little trying. So I'm looking forward to that hotel room next year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I, as most listeners know, I have been to Comic-Con now 26 years in a row. And for at least half of those, I've had to stay in a hotel when I wasn't living in San Diego. And I have stayed at, I'm going to say, almost every single hotel along Harbor and blocks in. And we stayed at the Omni for the first time, and it was great. There's different things great about different hotels, and unfortunately, I would pick different ones if we were like, Hall H has everything I want for 4 days, and then I would pick the Bayfront because it's right there. But you can't invest that in February or whenever it was that hotel sales go. So that's kind of annoying. Anyway,
you had a good hotel this year. It's nice and central.
Had a good one. That, the Hard Rock, all the Hilton, the other Hilton, those are all really, really cool hotels right there.
Real quick before we move on, I do see a lot of you commenting in the chat that like for the 50th year, it was maybe a little bit less than what we expected. But I said all year long, like the 50th is a huge deal for Comic-Con International. It's not for really anybody else. The studios were always just going to bring whatever they were going to bring. Like they don't care that it's the 50th, and honestly, why should they? But I think for Comic-Con, I think they did do some cool stuff with all the anniversary panels. But I totally understand like why maybe people's expectations were higher with it being the 50th. So I do get why people felt that way.
There was a lot of the people on panels and a lot of the exhibitors did not participate so much. There was a few who did something, like some artists did some special 50th anniversary things, like Patrick Balstros and the one postcard set and poster from, I am blanking on his name right now.
From was that Monkey Minion? Yeah, Dane.
So there were artists who did something, but most of them it was just business as usual because it's just Comic-Con.
Yeah, they don't care. It doesn't.
It was pointed out to me that it wasn't the 50th Comic-Con; it was the 50th year of the existence of the organization Comic-Con. So it's been 50 years of Comic-Con, but this one was actually number 49. So maybe they'll do another thing next year. No, they won't.
Maybe. No, I don't think they will. That would be really weird if they were like, "Good, it's the 50th again."
Yeah. So I guess we should get into a few of the things that people are talking about as well, which was Pacey Khan. I see a lot of people saying that they had a great time at Pacey Khan. That's awesome. We had a great time at Pacey Khan.
Thank you guys so much for turning out. Like we had, oh my God. Kim was like, did you really not expect this crowd? No, I did not expect that crowd. You guys, like, I think we hit capacity at one point, but it was really cool, like just to meet all you guys. And I hope you had fun. Like we did some trivia, we gave out some swag, you got to meet us. Hopefully it was all fun. Yeah, there was a group sing along at the end. Like it was fun. So thank you guys again so much for turning out.
And we're working on getting all of the art that you guys did, the coloring pages. We're working on getting all of those scanned and into a post so that you can see them all, because they were really awesome.
Amazing. Oh my God.
Had a great time going through them, because I was not one of the judges, so I did not see any of them unless people were working on them when I walked around until afterwards. And I was just watching like, oh my God, and they're just amazing seeing them all.
Yeah, basically, I wasn't a judge either. Basically, at the end, they were like, here are our winners. And I looked through them and I was like, these are great. So, but James and I got to look at them after, and you guys killed it. Great job.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Best of the Show. We have the Shruggy Awards going right now, so if you head to the site and want to vote on what we have going on there. But let's just talk a little bit about, I guess, you want to do some personal bests?
Yeah, let's do some personal bests.
All right, so I'll kick it off with Best Panel, and obviously that was the Marvel panel. I saw a lot of great panels, but that one was just the size, scope, the guests, and just what it actually was, just made it far and away the best panel that I saw all weekend. It was pretty awesome. So that's best for me.
Aaron, you want to
go? Does it have to be a panel, or can I just do a best of best? Best of best.
Best of, if you wish.
I think my favorite thing was actually the fandom party, which I didn't get tickets to. I got standby tickets, but a lot of standby people still got let in. That was definitely my favorite. The Girl Talk performance was pretty great, although it wrecked me. I was just moving and dancing and jumping and hopping and running around so much, enjoying myself, that like Friday and Saturday, I was just, I felt like I had just done CrossFit. Like I was just sore everywhere, very out of shape. So I really should have done some more cardio getting ready for Girl Talk, but that was my favorite. And also Adventures of Prize Mule. Those two things were tops for me.
Kim, do you want to go?
So in terms of panels, my favorite was hands down Sesame Street and Horton Grand, Sesame Street Live. So not so much a panel as it was an amazing show that they brought for us. And I have some videos I will post of that, because it was the small seater 240 or whatever it is. And And it was just luck of the draw. I had friends that had an extra ticket, and about 15 minutes beforehand, they said, "Can you come?" And I hauled butt over there, and it was so worth it. Plus, we got some bloopers of, even classic bloopers, like of Big Bird eating Elmo, and I was dying. I was just crying so hard from these bloopers. It was fantastic. I'll cover.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the best panel was The Good Place. I mean, it was the one that they're going to do. I mean, unless, we get a reunion here in a couple years, but it was phenomenal. They gave a standing ovation to Michael Schur, so that was really nice. Yeah, that was my best panel. Do you want me to do offsites, James?
Sure. Go ahead.
My best offsite, as I wrote about today, was Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That was it was interactive, but not overwhelming. Like, it was just fun. And it was set up like the show. So if you were a fan of the show, like, there were so many little Easter eggs and little nods to the show. I just loved Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Could have guessed that.
Right?
Let me see, which offsites did I go to? I didn't do a ton of offsites. We did the Amazon. I did Pennyworth, Watchmen, and I guess Fun Days is technically an offsite. But I'm guessing that I didn't get to go any of the awesome offsites. I got to go to some of the good offsites because none of them really wowed me. Pennyworth was fun because I got to take some fun atmospheric photos and things like that because they set it up really well. The atmosphere was great. But overall, I don't think I can really say that there was a best of offsite.
Well, I mean, what, in your opinion, because you said you didn't really get to do the awesome offsites, what would you consider the awesome offsites that you missed?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine I wanted to do and just never had time to wait in line. I wanted to go over to the Fox Animation Carnival and ride the Ferris wheel and do some of the games and get some ice cream, but again, never had time for it. I probably would have really enjoyed doing that, but there was never enough time for everything. So
yeah, I really regret not doing the FX one because I heard that was amazing, and you got to sit in air conditioning with that's my favorite kind of offsite. So,
so I did get to do that, and it was indeed amazing. And the American Horror Story was terrifying, and it really made me look forward to the show, which is I think what they're trying to accomplish. And the Vampire Room, we came home and watched What We Do in the Shadows. So I certainly lived for that.
That's awesome. And Kim, why don't you tell people what they would do when they went on break? Because I think that's amazing.
It was. And I actually missed this. They weren't doing this on Sunday, but on Thursday, when vampires went on break, they would hide themselves from the sun and run to where the break room was. And it was the photo that was amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah, that alone. Yes, that's perfect. Love it.
And I wish, after the fact, of course, when we went to Amazon, we went and did the boys activation, and then we basically ran out of time to do any more for a lot of us because we had other things we had to get to. And of course, we found out that the Carnival Row activation was actually probably the best one of the three that they had. So kind of bummed we didn't get to do that. So I would have preferred to have done the best one of the three if we were going to wait for one.
Yeah.
So
the problem with Amazon is the same problem they had last year. Is basically just you wait forever to get in there, and then you wait in more lines forever to get into each activation. Which, I get, but at the same time, it's not. It was so weird. They were so proud of their lines and their line lengths, and we were all just "Is that really something you want to be proud of? That you made people wait 5 to 8 hours?"
In the marketing world, a consistent long line is a bragging right.
I know. I know.
So I did
But
appreciate
From our perspective,
I know.
from those who are talking about The Boys being a lot of fun, yes, The Boys was fun. It was very high energy and it was fun. I just, from what I understand, Carnival Row was better. But
I ended up doing Carnival Row after we did The Boys, and it was very, very enjoyable. It was more relaxed a little bit. I felt like there was more to it with The Boys. While there were interactive parts to it and ways for the audience to be involved, I did feel like, and maybe this was just our group, I did feel like it required a lot of leading, like kind of telling you, oh, we go look for something over here. Is there anything that would work for this? But with Carnival Row, it seemed a little bit more like you were just able to discover things on your own.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, and obviously I was very happy with The Boys because I was the one who opened up the safe at the end and then got to destroy a video cassette. And let me tell you, I did a good job.
You did a good job.
Destroying a video cassette. It was very final. That thing was not going to get used again. So I had a lot of fun. It just wasn't like the wow experience that has happened in the past for things like Blade Runner, Netflix, obviously Westworld for all 400 of you that got to do it. Those kind of things. So, it's just that if I'm going to spend the time waiting in line, like we waited in line for, I think it was like 45 minutes to an hour for The Boys. If you're going to spend some time in line, you want that to be worth that amount of time. And for me, most offsites are like half hour max. All of the ones I went to were except for one, which we'll get into later, which we'll go in the worst section. But it's just the way it is. You're gonna, unless you've heard someone talk about it that you trust in a way that says like this is worth it. I mean, you're basically risking your time for something that you may not enjoy.
It's always a balance to try to figure out what your time is worth at Comic-Con.
Yep. What were you thinking?
I appreciated Amazon bringing Jack Ryan last year, and they had a lot of different booths you could stop into while you might have been waiting in line. You got to take advantage of the line buddy system, and they did have the ARG with the phone number that you could call, and that was something that you kind of, if someone's waiting in line, someone else could go do this hidden room that we all discovered. So it's kind of taking systems that maybe needed a little more of that, other things to do while someone was waiting in line for you, and taking turns might have been.
Yeah, last year at Jack Ryan, there was basically a scavenger hunt.
Right.
With newspaper.
And it was the same thing this year, but it just wasn't as much.
Okay.
And that was good. Good that it's there. And I've got to give a shout out for Orville, which I know was a bit of a walk, but it wasn't. It was amazing that they brought that and got it together so quick. So that was definitely, I think, my highlight was the Orville experience.
I also just want to say that the sci-fi karaoke bus was a freaking blast. And they let you sign up for the time you wanted. How often does that actually happen at Comic-Con?
Right. So of the other offsites, people are saying that playing mini golf at South Park was fun. Going through Shazam was okay. Going to the Detective Pikachu was good because you got the ears if or a poster or something like that.
Twilight Zone was terrible.
Twilight Zone was awful. Well, might as well talk about it now. Watchmen was probably the worst offsite ever at Comic-Con. I mean, I'm seriously, I don't think I'm joking that it was the worst offsite ever. I mean, even the photo op with the Wonder Woman invisible jet was better, way better, because at least you got a photo op with that. This was like, let me stand in a booth for 2 minutes, you make a video of me exploding like Dr. Manhattan, and then I leave. I mean...
You got a pen, though. See, so it's funny. So we have this as like our like one of the worst things on our Shorty Awards, basically. And like several people in the comments were like, the wait was less than an hour and you got a pen. Like for Comic-Con, that's pretty much a score.
I mean, I guess it's okay because you got the pin set, but it was like, I mean, there was like no theming. It was like a thing you stood in that looked kind of like, oh, hey, look, it's a reactor thing. Woo! And then you watched it and that was it. It was like, meh.
Yeah. It was just like, what was the point? I think part of the problem too is just HBO has gone so big and so amazing with their offsites over the last few years that like you just expect so much more. Like what you described basically sounds like it should be a thing over in like Petco Interactive Zone. You know?
James Binder is correct. It looked like a giant porta potty. It did. It's the same plastic. It was the same plastic.
That's funny.
And they did it twice. They made 2 of them to take to 2 different locations. Like, hey, this is so good. We got to do it twice. But no, it's not. Anyway, there's our best and worst offsites. Most of the offsites were good. There was, I mean, besides Twilight Zone and Watchmen, I don't think any of them were bad. It's just that none of them reached the peak level of previous years, I think.
Yeah, like the year that we had Blade Runner 2049 and Westworld. Like there was definitely nothing of that caliber. I think probably like 2 of the best were the ones that Kim said, Orville Experience and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
And American Horror Story.
Yes, NFX.
And I believe that those were awesome. You know, especially if you're a fan of those. That's the other thing is how much of a fan are you? And does it speak directly to the show? That really increases the level of enjoyment. Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine obviously was geared exactly for the show.
But it was basically like an escape room. So it was so interactive that like I feel like even if you didn't watch the show, like there were still fun activities to do. That's my personal opinion.
And I mean, Adult Swim was its usual great thing with all of the stuff that they do. You know, all the, like I said, The Walking Dead was The Walking Dead. I mean, it's like they've become standard now at Comic-Con. Yeah. That's the standard for them, and they're going to do that basically the same every year. So if you like that, it's going to be very enjoyable. If you don't like it, it's like, it's just what it is. So
we move on to booths.
Booths, best booth. Why don't you go ahead and start, Aaron? Put you on the spot.
Don't forget to unmute.
Best booth. Oh man, I don't even know. I have a couple bad ones, but nothing great. I mean, I always spend I always like going over to the Mondo booth, and everyone knows I'm a Mondo fan, and I like to see all the exciting things that they're going to be bringing with them to display the stuff coming out in the future. I thought that the Warner Brothers booth was interesting to look at. I didn't do anything there, but I was impressed by the grandiosity of the whole thing. I had a hard time on the floor, like I said before, and part of that was because I was there during times in which I felt like I couldn't stop and look at things. So I think some booths that probably had really interesting stuff to look at inside, I probably completely missed because the crowds around them were so thick that I couldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree that the DC WB combined booth looked great. I think that it probably wasn't really that great especially for the comics, because it was all flash and, you know, the few photo ops and the Harley Quinn cartoon thing, and then like, you know, sign up for stuff. So yeah. I mean, it was massive though. That thing was giant.
It was huge. Did anyone else feel like there were a lot more things requiring you to sign up for something? Like to get swag, like even specifically at the, oh my God, hi baby, you're so cute. Sorry. So at the DC booth, they were trying to get people to, they were doing the Marvel thing, trying to get people to sign up for their credit card, and offering a DC or a Batman Mondo print to sign up to get approved for a credit card.
Right.
It just seemed more stuff like that.
That's something that Sean pointed out of Parks and Cons when we were walking around. He's like, everything is requiring something from you. They're not just handing stuff out anymore. They're requiring something, whether it's your time, your information, whatever it may be. If they're not going to get your money, they're going to get something out of you. And that's basically what it's turning into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree that about the DC booth. Some of the booths that people have mentioned in here that I thought were also really cool was the Nickelodeon booth. Looked really cool. Never really stopped there long enough to do anything with it, but I thought it looked cool. Someone mentioned the Godzilla booth. I really enjoyed it was basically like a little museum exhibit history of Godzilla. The Steven Universe Cartoon Network booth was a karaoke, which was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
And I know that someone said Dark Crystal had the best booth. I know Lisa really enjoyed the Inside Editions booth with all of their stuff that they have there. What about you, Carrie and or Kim? Did you have any favorite booths?
I will go. I really like seeing the Krusty Krab, and that was great because you can walk by, get a photo, and move on, and you didn't have to wait in line to see you could also just see the inside from the outside. So Mike Nelson mentioned that Dark Crystal booth, and I completely forgot about that. That was one of those things I was like, oh, I have to come back and see this because that is my childhood. But then I never did, and that hurts a little bit, but we just have to move on. So that would have been fun to see. And then I would have liked to have done Discovery Transporter, and then you just reach these things, and like Aaron, I get overwhelmed with the lines and the time needed. So you just got to move on. But I liked that the Krusty Krab, you could just see inside, see what everyone was doing. And I happened to walk by right when Tom Kenny and the voice of Patrick, I want to say his name is Bill, were there. And that was great.
That is cool.
Comic-Con timing.
I'm just reading the chat where everyone's saying what they enjoyed and all the different stuff. So, and it's Comic-Con. There's so many things there. Everyone can have a different favorite, and some of us can have never seen something that they're talking about. Like, I don't ever remember seeing the Dark Crystal booth, maybe from a distance, but never got around to it. And everyone's like, that was the best. The Snowpiercer booth, don't even know where it was.
I know where it was, and I walked past Dark Crystal a couple times. I don't know. I think I do the floor like so different from everyone else. I basically I make the list of places I'm going. I go there because I get like too overwhelmed on the floor to be like I'm just gonna wander. The only places I will wander are basically Artist Alley or Small Press. Anywhere else, I'm like I've got my list. They're in order. I just go where I go.
Yeah, I just wandered around, which means I just typically wandered to places where I thought I might want to get a photo, which was booths with toys and statues. So I could oh, that's cool. Get a picture of that. Or, hey, look, that's cool. And then everything else is like, nah, too many people. If there was too many people, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah, see, that's why I just make my list to go. I get way too overwhelmed when there's that many people on the floor. I'm like, just get me out of here. Let me do what I want and get out.
And there were places on the floor on Thursday which came to a complete standstill just with people, and not because anything was going on. This was in one of the far aisles behind Mattel, and it was just so crammed with people trying to move. Nobody could go to get anywhere. It was weird.
Pretty much every vendor I spoke to said Thursday was their busiest day, which makes sense to me because it was the day that the panels were the weakest. Yep. So Hall H wasn't pulling people away, Barn 20 wasn't pulling people away. Both of those were basically walk-ins all day long. So that means everybody has to go somewhere, and where they went was the floor. So,
yep.
Yeah.
The balance of having panels to draw people away from the floor, you can't yep. You can't discount it because it really means something.
Yeah,
exactly. And while Hall H did fill up for things like Dark Fate, I think it was pretty much full. It's also there was no one in line, and that's where you get the worst crowd is when there's still a few thousand people in line hoping to get in later that day, and there was none of that on Thursday. So a few thousand extra people on the show floor.
Yeah, like I said, Ballroom 20 was an absolute walk-in all day long on Thursday too. So
I feel like that's something Comic-Con could really work on, balancing timing of things to keep things moving on the floor, and also having things in the right room, not a room that's too big, not a room that's too small.
And they can only partially do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, yes,
Right.
that's true.
Because the studios get to kind of like pick and choose what they want as well. Like a lot of times, if you don't know, a lot of times when you're like, why in the world is this panel in this way too small of a room? Most of the time it's because the studio requested that, because they would way rather have a line out the door than they would have empty seats.
Yeah,
so.
and during Kevin Smith's panel this year, he was telling the story, probably, I don't know for how many of the time, but when he first came, he did like a middle of the day panel or in a small room or something like that, and or just a panel in a small room, and then they said, how about you go into Hall H? And it wasn't like we're putting you there. It was like, hey, how about we do this and you can have a bigger audience? And so it's not like Comic-Con is going to demand people go into certain rooms. They work with them to say, okay, we have these rooms, this is the size we think you should get. And then it's kind of like this, well, we want to get a smaller room, or, hey, can we sit in a room with 1,000 people, not 2,000, or whatever it may be. They don't demand that everyone go into a certain room. I think some of them they probably do for the people who are like, we know you're not going to get, 500 people, so go ahead and go into the 200 seat room, because that's more what the level you're at. And most of the time they get it pretty close, especially on all those panels in the, the 200 to 500 seat range. They get most of those dead on. Those rooms are usually about 80 to 90% full. So it's just those studios who really like to have that crowd out the door and don't want to go into a bigger room.
Most of the time it's the 6A, 6BCF stuff that you're like, why is this not in Ballroom 20? That's usually why. Yeah.
Exactly. Even though most of the time, if you just put something that everyone's going to want to see at the end of the day, the room will be full all day for those people. You're like, look, it's going to be full.
Yeah.
You're going to have a full room.
Yeah. I'm going to double back real quick just because we have so many people commenting on it on the chat. So the Good Place Diner at the Hard Rock, Mary Jane's. I have very mixed feelings. I went the first morning on Wednesday, and it was phenomenal. But there was like no one there. You could hear the commentary. I went again later, and because there were so many people and they didn't have it turned up loud enough, like you could not hear a single bit of the commentary that Mark Evan Jackson had done. So it was basically just like a themed menu and nothing else. So if you got to experience it like early in the morning when it was quiet, awesome. Any other time of the day, probably not that great.
I didn't even know there was commentary when we went there.
Me neither.
See, exactly, because literally you could like when I went the second time, I was like, oh my god, like we came here for the commentary and you can't hear it. But the first morning it was great. So yeah.
Yep.
Fail on that.
Yeah. So actually, let me real quick. Mez Go Lucky says parking at our hotel was $50 a night. Crazy. Yeah. You want to know what the solution to that is? Here's a little tip. Hotel parking is about $13 to $20 a day. Go pre-buy parking for your week there if you're parking locally, and then just Uber to your hotel, and you're going to spend at least half as much money, and it's nice, secure parking lot. So there you go. Do that. I did that. It works.
Yeah.
So there's some other things now. Worst of, I don't know if was there a worst panel? Did anyone sit through a panel that was horrible this year? I don't think so.
I mean,
I did.
I heard some people say they were disappointed with some panels, but I don't know if they. Mostly it was the Parks and Rec panel.
Oh yeah, because it was not at all.
Oh right, and I didn't
what
go
people
back.
had expected.
Yeah, I did not go back and listen to the audio, but I'm pretty sure I warned people not to get too excited about that one. And because I knew it wasn't going to be like cast is going to magically show up. I knew that's not what it was going to be. So,
but it's so weird to me though that like if it was truly going to be like just a fan celebration, why in the world would you put it in Horton? Because like Horton usually does have decent names. This one did not. Like it should have just been in like a Marriott room. Like here's the fan celebration. Go have fun. Like that's literally what it should have been.
Yeah. So there were probably some panels like that. Like there's been a few being mentioned in here about that weren't up to, like apparently the Impulse panel had no one wanting to ask questions, which is always awkward in the room when that happens.
I was there for that panel. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
The Ripley's panel, however, no one wanted to ask questions. So literally, Bruce Campbell was like, just raise your hand. I'll point at you. You stand up and yell your question.
Wow.
So, yeah, that happened. That was kind of funny. Yeah.
Well, let's see. Try to see what everyone else is saying about some panels. Yeah, they ran out of time conveniently at the Game of Thrones for Q&A. So no fans were able to ask questions there. But the two showrunners didn't bother showing up. So what were you going to ask? I mean, the actors took the lines that are written for them. So, so I thought that was hilarious. Like 3 days before the con, oh, we can't make it. I wonder why.
The weirdest thing to me though about that is like literally when Deadline had leaked that the panel was happening weeks ago, they had been like the showrunners are not coming, and so no one expected them to. Like it was over and done with, and then HBO was like, no, they're coming, and then 3 days before, no, they're not. Like why? Like just let like the Deadline story be and just be like, no, they're not coming. Why do the flip flop thing? So weird.
There you go. So I mean, and the same thing happened. I guess technically for the Farscape panel, where when Claudia Black was announced, she tweeted out, she's like, nobody's asked me to be there.
Yeah.
And then she was listed on the panel description, and we're like, all right, Claudia Black is going to be there. And she was even tweeted and stuff that she was going to be there, and she saw those because she was added on them, and then she wasn't there. So
weird.
Who knows? Anyway, worst offsite, we already went over that. Twilight Zone, Watchmen. Those were bad.
Yeah.
Booths? Were there any really bad booths? I mean, okay, yes, there was. For two things, which was Marvel, which sucks every year.
Oh, what's the worst?
Horrible lineups for autographs and merchandise. We know it.
But they changed their merchandise line this year. So they've never done like the timed ticket things this year. It's always just been like you get in the line, it's capped, and then you awkwardly circle the booth forever until it's not capped. And then you get in the line, it's capped again, wash, rinse, repeat. But this year they did like timed tickets.
Now, did you notice that Mondo had to change to that system too? And apparently that was by request of SDCC or CCI. So I'm wondering, do you think that they asked Marvel to do that too?
Maybe they did. And if they did, my question is, why does your autograph system still basically only let exhibitors in?
Yeah. And my least favorite booth that I was going to mention earlier is ABC for that very same reason, that they are very unclear about how they do their autograph tickets. You get to the booth as fast as possible. The line is wrapped around the booth like a snake twice. I asked two different security people, where's the end of the line? And they kept saying, there is no end of the line because there is no line. Well, there's clearly a line. People are getting tickets. So that's my vote for least favorite or worst booth.
They need to figure out something, but unfortunately, since everybody just runs onto the floor and lines up, I mean, what else are you going to do except for hand out time tickets? But you still have to be there first to get the time ticket.
Correct.
Yeah. I'd like to say two things. One, I'd like to give a shout out, honestly, to to everyone who is all the booths that were in the portal, because I think every single one of them actually let like regular people in at some point. Even Funko, at like the end of the day, would let people in. So if you didn't win in the lottery, like you still had a shot, which I think is fabulous. Good for all those booths. And then while not a booth, I do think we need to talk about CCI's merch pickup process, which
on our list of things to talk about because it was horrible.
Terrible, truly terrible. I mean, yeah.
I saw people talking about waiting 4 hours.
Yeah.
And this isn't this, I mean, and this is to pick something up. This isn't, oh, I'm waiting 4 hours to buy something. They've already paid for this stuff. They're just trying to pick it up. There's something has to be done. It can be fixed. Do they just not have enough dedicated people?
I think that they, for whatever reason, underestimated how many people would pick up on Wednesday and Thursday. I heard that later in the week it was not as bad, but like Wednesday was an absolute madhouse. I heard Thursday was not that much better, and then I don't feel like I heard much the rest of the days, but I heard it wasn't as bad. I think they truly just thought like, oh, it'll be spaced out over the week. But no, like if you can pick up early on Wednesday before the con, like everybody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Why, like your Comic-Con, why are you not anticipating this?
Iron Souls in the chat said the computer went down on Sunday. So if you didn't have a paper barcode, you sat in line for like an hour.
Oh, a paper barcode?
A
paper? An antiquated paper print off? Really?
Who used terrible paper? Not our readers.
Oh my God.
You all told me.
I had no idea that tip was going to be like a fire starter, literal fire starter. It was crazy.
I mean, we had a good laugh all week about it.
Yeah.
The hill I am officially willing to die on is that paper is useful.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It sounds like they need to, they used to have the fulfillment room upstairs. They need to have their own dedicated room and not so much. It's a booth, right?
For which one?
The pickup for merch pickup.
It's combined pickup and new purchases out at the Nuke Marriott.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a decent sized space. It's a decent sized space, so like it should move like that.
It should. When I went by on Sunday, the pre-order line was all along the wall and then outside about 15 people. And the merch pickup was filling about, for buying current stuff was about half the room, half the zigzag line full in the room. So there was a line. It's just, and then Jeremy's pointing out, why does it close at 3 on Sunday? I was like, I don't know. The redemption room stays open 2 hours after the con.
Yeah.
Why does that one close 2 hours before the con?
I don't know. They need to fix that next year, though. I would also like to give a shout out to the fact that they fixed Indigo, mostly. Right. I mean, it could still be better, but they mostly fixed Indigo. So cheers to that.
And so, Michael, let me go back to the room first. Michael on the chat says Friday around noon was decent for pickup. Took close to 1 hour. Picking up your stuff that you pre-ordered should not take an hour.
No.
It should be 10 to 15 minutes if you have to wait a while. I mean, that should be a very fast process. Scan it, pick it up, go get it, done. There should be multiple people helping people, and it shouldn't take very long at all.
Get some more scanners, get some more iPads, whatever you need, get some more bodies, volunteers in there, whatever it takes, get people their stuff.
Exactly.
It's a waste of time.
Look at how fast everyone goes at Hasbro, and no one is pre-ordering there. I mean, they get people through so fast. I mean, every register has a dedicated puller for pulling the product.
Yeah.
And
Jeremy just said my pre-order at Toddland took 2 minutes, even with 20 people in line. Like that's how it should go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's something that definitely needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
One thing I think was fixed. You mentioned Indigo, but also another thing I think that showed some improvement was the security around booths that were having big signings. I don't know if anyone else, I think Lisa also mentioned that she noticed a marked difference in the security. I noticed it around the Fox booth with some of their signings, that instead of shouting, keep moving, no stopping, don't take your picture, no taking pictures. They were all very calm, and they would say, okay, keep moving, you're doing a great job, keep moving. Okay, it was like they were alternating between telling you to keep moving and then giving you this positive reinforcement. You guys are awesome, keep moving, that's great. And I really feel like it had to have been some sort of directive on the part of the elite staffing people to tone it down a little bit and not be so aggressive. So that was something I noticed. I thought it was great.
No, that is fabulous.
Or you just caught the lucky ones, and
Maybe.
other people are like, "No, I got yelled at."
Yeah, there were. It was two different instances at the Fox booth, and then I think Lisa mentioned it that she noticed it at the Warner Brothers booth during the Game of Thrones signing too, which has traditionally always been a madhouse, and that's where you would, you'd be trying to move through, and somebody would be yelling right in your face, "Keep moving," like drill sergeant style.
Right.
So I would like to hear if anyone else in the chat had noticed anything like that. So.
And we're seeing lots of complaints about the ADA lines this year. So
Complaints.
those were not done very well this year.
I think some booths got them right, and some booths weren't clear enough. I know, to bring up the Fox booth again, for all of the Fox booth signings, the ADA line started at the actual booth, and the rest of the people lined up at the wall, a few aisles down. But some booths just didn't have a plan in place, or anything.
Someone in the chat, GG Star, mentioned that around the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was so smooth that they were able to circle multiple times to be able to get pictures of the entire cast. So
which is nuts.
some things
Yeah,
work
that's awesome.
well. That's nice to see.
Michelle Vo said Patrick Ballesteros' line had the best line management. I'm not sure if you guys walked through Artist Alley, but like his line was ridiculous and capped just about all week. I mean, it was basically like 3 full lines with like gaps. It was just nuts. So if you waited in that line, you got some awesome stuff. But I know that was a little bit frustrating for some people. But again, he's got awesome stuff, so hopefully it was worth it. And I just love, honestly, that like there's a line at all in Artist Alley.
Is he required to police his own line, or do they send him a volunteer?
No. Oh no. It's like, I mean, if you go look at his Twitter, like it's him and like 20 volunteers. Like his line is insane. No, there's usually like at least 4 or 5 people working it at all times.
Yeah. And we're getting a lot of comments, like ADA lines for panels sucked and were horrible. Sometimes getting back into Hall H, we got getting yelled at for trying to get back into line where you're supposed to be after going to take a shower. Ballroom 20 staff, super friendly and positive. Patrick's line, dedicated Artist Alley staff and always doing great with the volunteer. Yeah. I mean, you're going to get just the wide range. And what Comic-Con will be looking for is what processes, not did you meet someone rude, not, were there too many people for the thing, but what processes didn't work or did work.
So like Indigo is actually a great example. So for anybody who doesn't know, for the last 2 years, what they've done is basically you line up outside like normal, and then when they let you in, they take you in like 10 at a time up the escalator and into the room. And it's just like, you can't doing it that way. You can't even like load up half the room if you only start an hour before the first panel even starts. So like literally last year, the first panel would start and the room was only like halfway full with thousands still line outside. Terrible system. This year, they got much smarter and they still kind of did the same thing. But what they did was they started taking you in much earlier, and they took you inside and loaded you up into a line inside right outside of the Indigo Ballroom, like in a little lobby area. So that way, like when the doors were open, they could basically just open the door and shoot that line straight in. So much, much better system this year at Indigo.
Yeah. And let me see if some of the other things that, Iron Soul says one of the processes that didn't work, Hall H spot holding for the next day line. that's always a problem. That is something that they're just going to have to figure out how to fix, because there is, the way they're doing it, there is no fix, because there is no currently in place way for them to say, one person, you're in line, you can hold for 4 more to become 5, but then there's no one policing it to say then those 4 more people that come then become 4 more each. And so you have what happened this week, which happens every single year, where each person becomes 20 or 30 people. And all of a sudden, 500 people becomes 2,000 people at the beginning of the line. And the only way they're going to have to figure out a way to fix it, or it's just the way it's going to be. I don't know what they're going to do.
Do we want to talk a little bit actually about the next day line? Because they did it a little bit differently this year. I mean, it's always...
They changed it up, and they did not allow you to line up as soon as they moved to the tents. They actually were forcing everyone to wait until 6 a.m. the morning before and make it actually a next day line, not a 2 days in ahead line.
Which meant that people were basically just circling the area.
Right. It goes back to the pre-wristband era of people circling until they could line up. It's again circling until you can line up for the next day line, which was the 6 a.m. mark. Although, from what I understand, for Saturday morning, they started letting people line up at 5:30, which threw a lot of people off. I mean, we heard some stories of, someone who was there at 5 a.m. waiting for it to open, getting a B wristband. So many people got ahead of them from, joining their friends in line. I mean, that's insane if you figure that there's probably somewhere between 12 and 1,500 wristbands per letter.
Yeah.
So it's kind of insane if you were there at the start and got B. Someone said the flag dropped at 5:15, so it was definitely earlier than the 6 a.m. that was announced. But I mean, and I actually do appreciate that they gave everyone an extra day of going and doing things and not having to wait in line. But then you're also creating that mass hysteria. When do I run and do that, mob mentality of running for that line to get first? How do you do that?
And that's actually pretty much my opinion as well. Like, I love that they're trying to do something. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I don't love the mob mentality, but I do very much appreciate that they're trying to do something, because it's true. Like, the line situation over the years has gotten ridiculous. Like, you should not have to wait like a day and a half in line.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't have to. I mean, there should be a process. And if you do have to wait, they need to make it a virtual wait like everything else.
Yeah.
Where you can get your numbered wristband, let's say.
Yeah.
Or make it a lottery for each section. Hey, show up, draw for where you're going to sit. I mean, it'd be horrible for everybody, but it'd also be fair for everybody.
Yep.
I don't know. There's so many different ways they could go. And unfortunately, the only one that is fair to everybody is those who want to put in the time and wait. And that obviously is also causing problems with all those who choose to cut.
Yeah.
There's going to be no solution that works well for a majority of people. There will always be people who hate it. There will always be people who get left out. It's just the way that it is.
Yep.
And clearing the rooms between panelists suggested is probably never going to work, because they just don't do that. And also, how do you clear? I mean, I know that you can do it, but look at D23. They clear the room between their Hall D23 panel, but they also have a panel from 10 to 2 and then like 3 to 5. They have a 3-hour gap in that room between.
Yeah,
panels.
I mean, it's a great solution if you want 3 panels a day, and that's it.
Yeah.
But if you want the amount of things that Comic-Con brings, then clearing a room just isn't going to work.
Yeah, and so I mean, we go on about this every year, and every year it's just a slight variation of the same thing, the same complaints. Things get moved around timing wise, but nothing really changes about what happens right now.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the other things we wanted to talk about is the museum. Did any of us get a chance to go? I know I didn't get a chance to go out there.
No, Lisa Lisa on our team, she went. She said it was really cool.
Yeah.
I think she really enjoyed it, but we didn't.
Yeah,
We didn't
and
go.
my husband did. And I think they did talk, Adam did talk about that when he was on the podcast. I think for next year, maybe if they do something similar, looking to extend it past the convention dates, because all of us just stay downtown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't have a badge, it probably was good to head out there for the morning or the afternoon. So I heard some people talking about it, saying that, you know, if you went out there, it was a good 1 or 2 hours of looking at the exhibits and not too much wait. It was enjoyable. It was a good way to spend the time. There was cool stuff out there, and then head on back and do some of your other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Did anyone hear about how the parties were? The after party or the fundraiser party?
the fundraiser party apparently was a blast. I saw pictures. One of my friends went, and I mean, there was a ton of people there. He was dressed up, and it just looked like a load of fun. So yeah, I think the party went really well.
Nice. Well, good for them. I hope it helped. I hope they got the funds they need
They
so
probably
they can open that museum.
What other things? Oh, one other thing we wanted to talk about in the probably should work on this section is signing sessions that didn't include all of the people that were there, including ones who had just been on the panel. And I understand, we know why it happens. It's because they're so booked for appearances on other things, interviews, photo shoots, other panels, whatnot. They're not necessarily always going to show up for everything, especially a signing.
And we should remind people that they're never guaranteed.
Right.
And it says that in the portal. That doesn't make it any less of a total bummer.
Right.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
There were some notable people missing, yes.
And some of them did something. I know that Ruby Rose not showing up for Batwoman and Kristen Bell for Good Place both re-signed so that you would at least get the autograph even if you didn't get the interaction. But then there were some no-shows, like James McAvoy didn't show for his Dark Materials signing, even though he had just been on the panel or was going to the panel. I don't know what it was, but basically he didn't show up, which is interesting considering like just the day before, out in front of the Indigo, Sean at Parks and Cons happened to be there when he came out, and he stayed extra and signed and took pictures with virtually everyone there on both sides of the walkway. And so he obviously was not skipping on that signing because he, was
didn't want to interact.
Yeah, not snubbing his nose at everybody. It was, I'm going to guess it was a timing issue, and he had somewhere to be, and he couldn't make the signing.
And we know that a lot of these people, they aren't making their own schedules. And
Right.
this is a publicist that's doing this. So it's hard. Even though we're disappointed, we can't really be mad at them because I don't think it's a personal slight on the people of Comic-Con.
No.
Yeah, it's absolutely not. Well, and a lot of like James said, I mean, a lot of them did nice things too about like pre-signing the posters, which is really cool. I mean, I know it's always disappointing not to like have like say Kristen Bell there on the signing, but you got everybody else. It's still a cool experience, and I also feel as though with the portal system, you also have like less room to complain than like if you'd camped out from 7 p.m. the night before to try to get the signing and then got the signing and went and then she wasn't there. I mean, you spent a whole lot less time trying to get this. So it's disappointing, but it's also much less disappointing than if you'd spent like 12 hours trying to get this thing.
Right. Yeah. So
which is exactly why I love the portal system. I know some people hate it, but that's exactly why I love it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
I even love it, and I am a
three-time. She froze. She's saying she's a 3-time loser. So
I am a 3-time loser. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. Loser.
Me too.
Loser club right here.
Yeah.
High five.
Even if you lost, though, there were And I can only speak to Fox because that's the only one I got this year, but there were plenty of opportunities for standby. Fox had a standby line for every single signing. They allowed a standby.
I think the deal is that Fox has a standby line, WB does not.
WB, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And also with the portal, I think we mentioned this earlier, but just let's reiterate that virtually none of the exclusives companies that are in the portal had items that were exclusively only for portal winners. Almost all of them opened up at some point and had, I think, almost everything offered available to non-portal winners.
Yeah, I think truly every single company opened at some point to just general attendees who didn't win. And I mean, obviously, like at places like the proper Funko booth, like not everything would have been available. But the nice thing about Funko is, so long as you don't care about the sticker, you weirdos, you can get them other places. Like I got the Toucan, which granted is the SDCC times Funko booth and not the regular Funko booth, but I got that online, so I was super happy about that. And if you wanted the others, and again did not care about the sticker, you could get those, you know, at Hot Topic or Barnes & Noble or wherever online. So
exactly. So
what people or what booths need to hop in and start doing the portal?
Marvel for autographs.
Yeah,
Marvel for autographs.
Mm-hmm.
Always my number one answer.
Marvel and ABC for autographs.
And your exclusives. Marvel needs to do their exclusives in the lottery too. I mean, they can still open up at the end of the day for people at the, you know, for what's left, like everybody else. But they have enough stuff. They have how many different things available that, I mean, they have almost as many individual things as Funko does, with how many T-shirts and pins and everything else that they bring.
And they could do time slots. That wouldn't be hard. Funko does it.
Yeah.
I mean, they did time slots this year,
yeah,
literally.
Yes, they could do, but you still had to get to the booth, like you mentioned. Yes. You still had to get to the booth right away. You know, if I knew that I had a portal spot at 3:00 to purchase my Marvel stuff, I wouldn't have to get there at 5 a.m. to get in line to run to the booth.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on that same token, I guess Mondo, considering they had the same problem, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel, to me, like Mondo is like so specialized. I don't know that like that would do well on the portal. Like I feel like you'd have a bunch of people sign up and then be like, but it's expensive.
Right. I saw some folks that were disappointed that they couldn't get some of the fig pins. And thought that maybe the fig pin booth could be one that does it. I'm not sure exactly if they were talking about fig pins themselves, their booth, or the ones they shared with Blizzard and a few other places. Yeah. But I know that was one I saw people mentioning.
Yeah, and they had stuff at multiple. They're basically like the Funko of pins, basically. Mm-hmm. Because they have stuff at their booth and they have stuff at a few other booths, just like Funko does.
Mm-hmm.
So you just had to make sure you had to go to all the different ones if you wanted to collect all the fig pins this year, which I saw someone post a picture of, like they had like a good 10 or 15 different fig pins. It was pretty nice haul.
Did you see those extra? I had never seen those extra large ones in person.
I haven't.
Those things, they're huge. They're like action figure size. They're giant. I saw some guy who had them all over his backpack. I was like, please take those off before you go through like a metal detector.
Yeah. Hey, so real quick, let's do 5 seconds of Star Wars Talk with James. All right, folks. So just in case you all were worried, yes, I did get the Thrawn exclusive cover. Managed to score that on preview night. Thank you, preview night. No problem at all. That's Star Wars Talk with James. Pew, pew, pew.
You said 5 minutes. That was like 5 seconds.
I did, didn't I?
Did you? Okay.
Anyway, there you go. 5 seconds of Star Wars Talk with James. I got my book.
I got my book too. I actually do have that sitting over here. I got my lovely Magician's book, which is really the main thing I wanted. So yeah.
Yep. Let me see here. We have some questions. So here's one. Trey Jones earlier in the night asked, I know the con just ended, but I'm wondering when pre-reg and open reg will be starting. Returning registration should be, I think it's been in October the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's usually like October, November.
And then
I go on vacation in September, so it might be then.
and it'll be a month or so after that for returning registration.
Yeah.
It was right before Christmas last year, wasn't it? Shortly before Christmas.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah. Tactile MD asked earlier, how do you get over the post Comic-Con blues? Well, I would like to think talking about it and listening to a podcast would be a good way because you can relive a lot of stuff afterwards. But typically what I do is I just go start reading articles and stuff about things that I missed because of how much stuff you miss at Comic-Con because you can only do so much. And that's one way to get over it. It takes about a week personally for me to kind of get back into the flow of real life after the con, mainly in catching up on sleep.
And speaking of that, not the sleep thing, but we will have a lot more wrap-up stuff on our site here in the next couple days. So like that Brooklyn Nine-Nine one that I did this morning. So keep an eye out on our site for that. And then on Friday, the Struggy Awards close Thursday night. We'll announce the winners on Friday morning. So
there you go. And Beth is working hard. She's going to do the same thing this year because she went to the Her Universe. So there will be a post with a photo of every single Her Universe contestant and all of Ashley's dresses and the winners. I'm going to have some photos from the Pennyworth, and I'm going to try and do a write-up, but it may just be this thing was kind of cool, and then I'll be done with that. What else are we working on? An Amazon write-up and
an Amazon write-up.
I'm going to write up a little something about the fandom party. Hopefully get
I have
some
photos from that.
Oh, perfect.
So I'll go make sure I do those.
Yes.
That thing was, I took right in there. I was there for like half an hour. They gave me press access, which was like, okay, fine. So I went in there and did my press thing. I took some photos and I booked.
And I was there from nearly the beginning to the end.
Yeah, I ran into you when I was there.
Yes.
And I stopped by and I'm like, you having fun? And you're just like,
yeah. Did I look like a yes?
Uh-huh. And I'm like, all right. This party was for you. It was not.
Yep.
Sarah and I are going to do a wrap up on the sci-fi karaoke bus, which was super fun. We're also, like we talked about earlier, going to do the Pacey Khan coloring contest entries, which were amazing. Kim, were you going to do Orville experience or something?
For sure, Orville, and contributing the Expanse portion to the Amazon offsite because that was the one I picked because that's my favorite. And then the Picard Gallery probably got to give a shout out too because we're just so lucky to have all these shows on the air or coming on the air at the same time. It's so fantastic.
The panels were awesome. Those were really good panels. Yeah, Patrick Stewart's awesome. He's the coolest. I had one more question that I mean, there's probably more, but this was one I actually remembered here. Kim asked, does anyone have any idea what the toughest exclusive was to get this year? I'm going to assume it was the 100 soft dumpster fire vinyl. Because there was only like 10 or 12 a day, 10 of the regular and 2 of the variant every day. I'm assuming that was pretty hard to get.
I would very much assume that. I mean, I think a bunch of stuff was really hard to get this year. Mondo, I mean, we heard every morning, like, tickets are out pretty much instantly. I didn't hear much about the Winona Earp Funko. I'm really curious to know, like, were those gone like that? Did actual fans get any of them? I don't know.
I'm sure the Winona Earps were the first Funko to go since they were only available at the booth. They were not available anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and they were way cool.
Apparently the Sith Trooper Funko went really fast as well, but I'm like, it's just an early release. The only thing different about that from the one that's going to be in the store is a sticker. I mean, it literally does not have a different paint job or anything from what I understand.
Yeah, but James, people, the Funko fanatics, they love their stickers.
I know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Funkos, but I mean, a sticker's not worth that hassle to me.
It's not worth it to me either, but we appear to be in the minority.
Skater Tunes mentions the Con Ranger booth. They had the 50th badge was apparently very hard to get. They sold out of those pretty quickly.
Yes, I did actually hear that, and I heard that like people were like yelling at them. So if you were someone yelling at them, don't do that. Don't do that. And for those who did love it, she did tell me that next year, whatever their exclusive is, she was like, we'll be doing a whole lot more. So don't worry.
That would be the did not know that they were going to be that in demand kind of thing. And it's a learning experience. It's the same thing that happened with Upper Deck last year. They did that Marvel 10th anniversary card set. They made 500. They're like, we sold out of these way too fast. So this year their card set had 1,500. It's what they do.
We told Con Rangers next year they need to do a 51st badge.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I'd way rather have like a 51st badge than a 50th, just because I think that's funnier.
They should do a badge that says, I missed getting the 50th badge last year badge.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. All right. So, I mean, it's basically going to be hibernation season, kind of, but Comic-Con is essentially almost a year-round thing now. You know, with all of the ticket sales and hotel sales and parking, and news starts picking up like in February now. So
yeah, and I mean we've still got returning registration, open registration. So like you'll be hearing from us very soon.
You can take us off of notifications
in a week. We've still got a couple of wrap-up stuff.
Yes. Okay. I think that's it. I'm sure someone will run a question at us as we're doing closing down here. Someone asked, let's talk about it real quick. Comic-Con 2020 is July 22nd for preview night through the 26th. It is a week later in the year, which is why it's exactly 365 days from right now that you will be standing at preview night if you get tickets. Let's see. Someone's mentioning the bags, the WB bags. Yes, the WB bags sucked this year. I mean, no matter where you looked, they were breaking everywhere. It was pretty horrible. It's whatever. It's the way it is. Frame them. Take the thing and frame them. All right. Is that it?
I mean, we don't have news.
Let's give a tip of the hat to San Diego weather for waiting for the heat until this week, because it went up like 10 or 15 degrees like this week.
Yeah, today was terrible.
Yeah,
it's really the night. The nights are terrible.
Yeah, that's great.
My air conditioning just came on.
Ours has been on all day. So, let's, Carrie, why don't you mention the Patreon?
Yes. So if you do actually want to keep the fun going all year long, you can join our Patreon, where at least James and I, and probably some other special guests, will be doing a podcast at least once a month for our Patreon subscribers. It's basically just, if you feel that we contributed value to your Comic-Con experience, throw $1, $5, whatever a month our way to contribute to our hosting costs. All the money goes directly to that, not into our pockets. That's basically what it is. That's what I got for you.
No, I just thought someone put it on the message. Skater2 now. I memorized your theme song for nothing. Didn't see a single prize mule.
I did make people sing it though. I did.
Them's the breaks. Try again next year. We try to be as many different places as we can, and sometimes we're exactly the opposite side of the convention center or downtown than you are, and that's just the way it goes. But we'll have more stuff next year, and you can try again.
And if any of you got the Gary pens, like how freaking sweet are those? And I just want to say they're not listening at all. Thank you so much to Yesterday's for giving us those. So
exactly. Thank you. Thank you to the Dubliner for hosting Pacey Khan and doing such a great job with the drink menu and just being so accommodating with all of our craziness. Thank you to everyone who attended Pacey Khan, because you guys are awesome.
Yes. Especially if you take along to I Don't Want to Wait at the end.
Yes.
You are extra awesome.
To everyone on the unofficial blog team, Aaron, Kim, Andy, Sean, Beth, Ben, Lisa, Kara. Am I missing anyone? I'm probably missing someone. I'm trying to do it from memory, and I'm horrible with
Evik.
Evik. Carrie.
Carrie, James.
Thank you to the whole team for basically allowing, well, for making it to where I actually want to stick around every year instead of giving up. You make it so much fun to cover Comic-Con, so I really appreciate it. And you guys all worked so hard to do this for everyone. And thank you to everyone who stopped us and said thank you. We do it for you.
Yes.
We make sure we want your con to be as good as possible, and that's why we do it. And we really appreciate it that you, that you tell us that we did a good job. It really helps. So thank you.
It does. I just want to build on that a little bit. I mean, James and I talk every year after the convention, and especially like the last 2 years. Like, I think you feel the same way I do. That like we have just left so energized and like ready and excited to do this all again in a year, and it's solely because of you guys and how excited you are, and like how you tell us that all the hard work that we put into this like makes a difference in your convention experience. Like James said, like we truly do this because we want you guys to be informed and to have the best possible convention that you can have, and hopefully we helped your convention be a little bit better.
So we'll be back during pre-registration or returning reg, and then open reg. We'll run a podcast then. For those of you who are Patreons, we'll be doing the monthly. We're probably going to do one. We just did one for the Comic-Con bonus episode, but I think we're going to hold off doing another one until after D23, and then I think that is the episode Carrie and I will discuss going to other conventions and how they compare to Comic-Con. And as for what we have lined up, it's basically just whatever is kind of like going on at the time. We'll kind of discuss like, what are we getting for Christmas, and what are we planning to do for the new year, and what new conventions are we going to, and what is our favorite TV show, and every little bit about Comic-Con, and that kind of thing. It's basically just an extra little thing for the Patreons who are helping us out with those server costs that are ballooning like you wouldn't believe.
Now, is there any extra puppy dog content? Any extra pug content? Because that might be somebody's like sway.
I mean, I feel as though there's been an awful lot of pug content in this podcast just because my dog feels terrible, so she's been like sitting in my lap. That's her right there. But yeah, I mean, we can have some extra puppy dog content.
If we could have an all pug episode, that'd be okay.
We can just let my dogs.
I'll bring my dog. Yeah. You bring your dogs.
We just let them host. Done. Done. It's just puppy camp. Done.
Yep.
You guys do that, and you realize that I'll just quit because I won't ever beat that, and they'll just take over, and you're like, what's the point of ever doing anything on a podcast again?
Nobody can replace you, James. No. My pug doesn't know enough about Star Wars.
Well,
that's right. Neither does mine.
That's true.
So, yeah.
All right, I'll stick around. I'll stick around for that, I guess.
Okay, real quick, I do want to answer one question. Somebody asked a little bit ago if we got any art commissions this year. I definitely did, but you can find all of mine on my Twitter or at the start of part 2 in the commissions post that we did today. And if you want to see a whole bunch of amazing art, go look at those. Basically, we just asked you guys to send us the commissions you got. They're amazing. We put them all up on our site.
There were so many, and
so many,
and I'm like, I used to get sketches when I went to Comic-Con back in the 90s, and it makes me miss doing that when I see all of those.
It's my goal.
So, yeah, but I'm like, I want to do it, but I don't ever put anything up on the walls. I'm kind of lazy like that. But that one with Nick and Disney Robin Hood Fox.
Isn't that amazing?
The most amazing one ever.
Oh my God.
That one. It was
yes,
so
awesome. That would be why I put that one like front and center. Like, here you go. This is the best one. Because it is. Yeah, no, that was James Lavani. And I mean, you and I, we freaking love anything related to Comic-Con. So I adored that.
It was a Comic-Con related one. Go look at it.
Yes.
If you haven't looked yet. Go look. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
tweeted one from Sunday in Artist Alley, and somebody had an artist there doing the toucan, which I was like, how fun is that? Like, so anyway, sorry.
And just so you're aware, if you are interested in getting commissions, we will be continuing the artist commission post next year. That is now going to be an annual post, just like our autograph post and our panel post. The commissions post will be annual from now on. So you will always have a way to go look and see what artists are available, what their pricing is, an example of their work. That's going to happen every year from now on.
And thank you for Andy for taking the reins in that and doing all the hard work.
Yeah, no, he did a fabulous job
when it was getting near the end there. That's a lot.
But I think it was like such a valuable resource. Like, I mean, I heard from so many artists that they got like way more commissions than usual. Even James Silvani told me that like his list usually closes in like 4 days. He was like, it wasn't even a day this year, basically, because like we posted it. So I honestly, like, I truly hope that more of you got original art this year, because art's great. So.
Yeah, and for those of you who are artists who will have an artist table next year, make sure you get us your information so we can put you on that list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that it? I think that's it. I think that's
it.
Okay. This is the final SDConCast of the 2019 season. You can join us later this year for returning an Open Reg podcast for 2020 badges. In 2020, we'll be doing a couple WonderCon podcasts and then kick off the 2020 SDConCast season in May.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that you're already like not doing it in April. May. Yep. Yeah. That is correct.
You can sign up for our newsletter. We will go back to sending them again next year.
Yep.
And you forget, and all of a sudden something's going to show up in your inbox. So thank you all for joining us here. As I mentioned, we really appreciate all of you and that you tune in. Kim, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am outside Comic-Con on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I don't know who I'm supposed to ask next. So Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me online now on my actual Twitter at Carrie Dixon, which I will now actually be using because con is over. Erin, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Instagram or Twitter at Bavarian Erin. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Dan Regal everywhere, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for links and photography stuff for my wife and I. And speaking of my wife, thank you to Beth, our producer, who will edit this show. There were no slides, but she does the things that get this podcast done and into your ears or eyes if you watch it now. But she doesn't have as much to do with that. But she does everything else.
She does. And can I just tell a quick story real quick? I know we're trying to wrap this up. James and I on Sunday were trying to remember the intro, and Beth knew it by heart, and James and I did not. So,
yeah, pretty awesome. And you also, for the patrons, yes, you actually get to hear Beth talk because she usually doesn't talk. So you actually get to hear her on the Patreon podcast. There you go. I think I'm going to do all of Carrie's lines. We are on iTunes.
Yeah, I got a hug.
Yeah. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog or search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We're also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening and watching. Everybody, go
shawarma.
Shawarma.
Time for the